Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I wanted to try a new form of training in the screen capture videos. And the first one we want to talk about is batch jobs. I know a lot of you want to do batch jobs, and typically if you're not doing them frequently, you forget about how to do them exactly. So I thought doing this would be better than a meeting, and you'd also be able to keep it on your computer for reference. So hopefully you enjoy it. Let's get started here. Okay, so what we want to talk about today, I put this up first just so those that come back for reference can easily see them and just take note of them real quick and maybe even cancel out of the video past this point if they're used to running them. But some of the reports I think that are relevant for sales would be a 10 report, which is a sales order report, a 200 report, which is the RFQs, a 525, which is the invoice report, and a 528, which is sales and bookings, and a 651, which is a stock query. So some of the things that we're going to go through today would be how to run a report, the kind of interface tour, where to get your reports once they're submitted, and then lastly, a tour. We'll do a 651 report and go over kind of just being aware of the fact that you're running information and getting proprietary information out of the system. So with that, let's get started here. When you want to run a report, you'll come into ICS and you'll say batch job, file, batch jobs, submit batch job, and the interface will come up within your internet browser. So here's the screen, and just a quick tour. You've got previous order and submit order buttons here in the top left. You've got your list of all available reports. You can see it's in kind of sequential order, and it'll tell you if you have security to run that report in this column here, and a brief description. There's also a search field. So for instance, if you want to say sales order and hit search, it'll pull up everything that's got either of those names in the report. So once you click on a report, it'll show you a more detailed description of that report. This down here is the parameters you've selected, and over here on the far right is the actual parameters, which are basically filters for this report. So just to kind of go over the parameters, there's a lot of different ones for each. They're all individualized for each report. So every report's going to have its own set of filters that you can set within it. For instance, right now we are on a 525, which is going to be kind of the invoice registry. So you'll notice that some of these have required check marks, which means you cannot run the report unless it has a value. So we'll set a sequence number. And basically, when you double click these lines, it will be when you can put a value in. It'll give you the name of the parm, a description of what the parm means, and the mask is the value that it's looking for. And the note, obviously, is that this is required because you saw the check mark. So do we want recap only? We're going to say no. We want detail. Do we want to sum invoices? I'm going to say no. And then I can put a start date, which we'll say is June the 1st, and an end date. So putting an end date past where we currently reside, like today, for instance, is June the 3rd, isn't a big problem. It'll just run till it doesn't have any more information to give you. So there's different things you can put in, and as you can see, as we've been putting in filters or parameters for this report, it's been logging them down here in the bottom right. So once you want to submit the order and you have it where you want it, you click submit order. It'll ask you, do you want to continue to submit? Yes, we do. This box here says, do you want to run the job now or do you want to run it in the evening? It's possible that some reports get so large that it has a drain on the performance of ICS. So if you know you're running a big job, you may want to click tonight and have it run in the evening. But for this one, it's pretty small, so we're just going to hit now. And we don't want to have another one, so we'll close that. So there, we just ran a report. This previous order button here, you can actually pull up past reports, and it's an easy way to kind of tell the system hey, I want this other report, but only one parameter is different. Like for instance, here's the one we just ran, right? So maybe we wanted to change the date range or whatever, and then we can hit submit. And so your previous orders will pretty much always be there if you ever need them. So in any case, back on track, we've run a batch job, and we need to get it out of the system, right? So there's two ways you can get your batch job report. One way is to come up to File within ICS, Batch Jobs, and View My Recent Batch Jobs. Here's the 525 report that we just ran. Now note that this is only going to keep up with reports that you've run within the last 24 hours. Anything prior to that is not going to be here. It's going to be in a different folder, and I can show you that. So the other folder is going to be actually in the T drive. So you'll come here to T drive, you go to ICS reports, and then you want to find your name. Everybody has a folder. So here's my folder. As you can see, these are all the reports I've ever run. Now, this folder does not clean itself up automatically. You're going to have to manually keep up with it. And as you can see, it's kind of important because some of these reports can get quite large. This one right here is 64 meg. It's pretty big. So you will have to delete this to clean this out periodically. But for instance, here's the one we ran today, right? June the 3rd, 10 o'clock p.m. And let's go ahead and open it. So every report that you run, you'll get a cover sheet just like this. And it will tell you what time you ran it, what filters or parameters you set on it, and you always have that on every report. So basically here's what we queried, right? Now, so we've told you how to run a report. I've given you a tour of the interface, where to go once the orders are submitted. Let's take a quick tour of the 651 report. I think honestly that this is one that you guys probably should use the most often because it's an actual query of our inventory. So let's go through here and let's pick some stuff. I do want conditions to be printed on the report, which is what this is asking. Do you want the condition? Let's see, there's different things you can filter on here. You can say received after a certain date, the tag date being, I don't know, 6 months and fresher, or 6 months and newer. I don't know if fresher is a word. So let's go down here, let's go take condition. And this one right here is unique. Some of the PARMs have these on them. You have to hit I, meaning I do want to include this parameter within the report. He's asking me for an I or an E, include or exclude. Do you want to include this parameter? And let's get all of our as removed material. Right? So currently right now, we're querying the system for all of our as removed, and it will send back everything that we got in as removed condition. So let's kind of tighten it even further. I'm going to say PO type. If you want to include the parameter, and the parameter itself is always underneath that. And let's go with lot purchase. So right now we're looking for all as removed material that's PO type LP. And let's go with aircraft group as well. I want to know everything as removed that's LP, that's A320. So it's asking you for an aircraft group code. It says it should be a 2-digit number. So where do you get this? That is a great question. So you come to ICS for any of these codes. You'll see them frequently throughout all of these different reports. And you want to click Code Summary. Codes, Code Summary. As you can see, I already have it selected because I come here quite often. I never remember what the aircraft group codes are for certain ones. So we want to find A320 family, which is right here. As you can see, the description will tell you the aircraft type, and it will give you a code. So it's 10, right? So, apologies for that. Let's set aircraft group as 10. There. So now we're looking for all as removed material that's PO type LP that is A320. So we will submit that. Now, there's some other parms here that I think are quite important. So you can say ATA chapter. You can get all of the, nacelles or exhaust, right? You can get all of the fire protection, all the flight controls that we have in our system, and you can tighten it down by different other filters as well. You can say PO numbers, so if you need to know every Q400 part that we have in stock, you can type in all the applicable PO numbers. I think there's 3. And let's see. Okay, see aircraft type. That's actually different than aircraft group, right? And it's actually going to give you like 737-600 or A319, so you can get down that close if you really want to. But typically, aircraft group will give you what you need. A few others, a part starts with, you can say, I need all the parts that start with 642. You can type that in, or all the parts that start with Delta 319. Probably one of the more useful ones, in my opinion, is this product master description like. So, for instance, you can say, I want to know all the parts that we have that have wheel in them. Okay? Now, be aware, if you type wheels, it is going to not give you parts that have just wheel, right? So kind of be smart in what you put in this field here. But you can say reverser, you can say brake, and that will give you everything in our system that has the word brake in it, in an Excel format, which is important. You can say to include hazmat. There's a bunch of different things you can do. So I would look through all of these different reports, and here's the list again, and just kind of familiarize yourself with the parameters. If you're wanting to know about open sales orders, you can do a Timming report, or you can do a 528. A 528 is giving you the sales and the bookings. For an RFQ report, a 200 report, you could say, what RFQs do I currently have open with United? What have I done with United within this date range? What have I quoted United that is A320? There's a bunch of different parameters within that. The 525 is basically going to give you a line by line for every item that's ever been invoiced. So you could say, what have I invoiced United over the last 3 years? What have I invoiced United that's A320? So on and so forth. So let's take a look at our stock query that we ran, because I'm pretty sure it is done running. And again, you go to File, Batch Jobs, View My Recent Batch Jobs, and here it is. It's completed. It took 7 seconds to run. You can open it right from the screen. Here it is. Okay. And this is everything we have in stock that's A320. It's lot purchase, and is in as-removed condition. Now, the last thing that I'll say here before I let you guys go is that I would be very judicious about what it is you give our customers. I would never give a customer a list of parts that is 1,600 line items long. Obviously, there probably is some exceptions to that, and I would say if it's a competitor, I would definitely be extremely cautious about what it is you give them. Like, for instance, this quantity column here, I would definitely remove that because it tells them exactly how many of everything we have. So I'm not going to say every case is like that, but typically, if somebody's going to look at a list of 50 parts a lot harder than they would look at a list of 1,600 parts. Just my opinion. Adding on to that, I would say be very careful about these tabs down here. I wouldn't just delete this column, save this file, and send it to anyone, because it is possible that it has other tabs. Long ago, I had sent what I thought was a spreadsheet with just this that I was looking at, but it had proprietary information in tabs below and kind of down here, and I didn't notice that, and I sent it to a competitor, which was very bad. So be very careful. If you look at the 525 report, like here is a lot of information that we wouldn't necessarily want to give the customer. So the best thing that you can probably do is to, let me get back to 651, it's a little less noisy. If you're wanting to send this to a customer, probably the best thing to do is to print it with a cute PDF writer, which will convert it to an Adobe format and ensure that you're sending them what you're looking at, right? So, like for instance, if we sent this, it'll ask you to save it. Save it like that. And a lot of people, I will admit that sometimes people will get sideways about you sending them an Acrobat. They'll say, I can't work this. And at that point, maybe we can look at giving them everything. But I would definitely just try this first. You can copy and paste from an Adobe, right? So here's that file. You can copy this part number and throw it in here, right? See how it copies and pastes? But I will say that if they try to copy this whole thing and throw it in a spreadsheet, it's not going to work. It can, and you can do that, but it takes a little bit of know-how and a little bit of elbow grease to get it to happen. But as you can see, if you copy it, it copies it all into one column. There are ways to fix that, but I'm just letting you guys know. This is probably the most secure way of dealing with it. The other secure way would just be to make sure you fully cleaned it up as much as possible, and being sure that there's no tab down here. So guys, I think that's it for me. I appreciate you listening to the video, watching. If for any other reason you can think of that we need to do a video on anything else, give me some feedback, let me know how it goes. If you think there's something missing from this video, please let me know that as well. But thank you.